Welcome back to another episode 2 of the Deep Range Podcast. Happy New Year to everyone tuning in right now. We got myself, Ryan, here, and we got Salvi here.
What it do?
We're back for another exciting episode of the Deep Range.
Yeah. And guess what? We're in 2021.
2021. We've made it. A really long year.
Yeah, happy New Year, everyone. It's gonna be a lot of it's a long time coming getting over this hell of a year. Oh man. I hope 2021 is nothing like 2020, please.
Oh yeah. Need a total change. So that being said, let's get started, man. Let's jump in. So
wait, before that, Ryan, I want to ask you,
what's up?
What's your New Year's resolution? Give me some.
Just stay healthy, man. Stay healthy. That's it. And enjoy some nice basketball and win our fantasy league. How about you?
Oh yes. Yeah. My New Year's resolution for sure. Play a lot of basketball. I got to do that a lot this year, surprisingly, because I just had to go outdoors. So I'm hoping our lockdown ends soon and we can start playing ball again. That's gonna be one. The other is just getting 8 hours of sleep a day. I feel like we neglect that a lot,
Oh yeah.
and we don't. I was listening to LeBron's. I think I told you about this. I was listening to LeBron's episode in Calm about sleep and how important it is. And yeah, I mean, if LeBron can find time to sleep 8 hours a day, I think all of us can. So that's going to be a big focus of mine. Just sleep 8 hours a day and make sure I function at 100% every day instead of neglecting sleep and thinking that added time does anything. But really, it doesn't.
Yeah, man. As we get older, we definitely need to prioritize sleep. It's hard to do when you're juggling so many things. So definitely, that's a great resolution. I guess when I said being healthy, kind of encompassed working out, getting 8 hours of sleep, eating healthy, a lot of these. So it's awesome. Definitely, we're glad that it's 2021 finally. Uh, it was quite the interesting New Year's, even though compared to
Stay at home.
2019 New Year's Eve. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really weird.
I literally just stayed at home and watched a movie. That's it.
Yeah, same here, man. Same here. Whereas previous year we were out, which was awesome. We were spending
Yeah.
time with.
We had a fun time last year,
We
but
did
little did
definitely.
we know that 2020 was not going to be a very happy New Year. So,
Oh no, not at all,
uh,
not at all.
yeah,
Oh man. But
yeah.
with that being said, the one of the biggest blessings that ended with 2020 is that the NBA came back. So that's
Yes.
awesome. So, so at least while we're home, we can tune into NBA games, which is awesome. That makes life so much better. Uh, I gotta ask you, man, with 2021 uh, ahead, basically the rest of the season, and based off our predictions last week and what's been happening in between now and then, any bold predictions for 2021?
Yeah, I mean, the first few weeks of NBA has been crazy. Like all these teams that we've been seeing, some of them have been performing way better than we expected. Some of them nearly not as good. And I mean, we know it's a small sample size, so there's going to be a lot of swings back and forth. But if I had to make some bold predictions based on the first two seasons, what better time to do it than right now?
Oh yeah.
And my first one actually is I think Trae Young might be a MVP candidate.
What?
I know, but just hear me out. I know that people always say that Luka's next in line and Luka's gonna be the best in the world. Sure, I'll give that to him. But have you seen the way Trae Young's playing right now? And have you seen the way Atlanta's performing right now? Like just yesterday, they had the Brooklyn Nets, and they, in all honesty, destroyed them. I mean, fine, did not destroy them, but it was still a blowout, and they played really well. And Trae Young is the driving engine of that team right now. And I
Yep.
think we underestimated Atlanta a lot. I know when you and I did our prediction, I think we had Atlanta out of the playoffs. We didn't even have them as the 8th seed. but
No,
they're
we
looking
didn't.
like legit contenders. And they had the back-to-back series with Brooklyn, and the first game went down to the wire. And if it wasn't for Kyrie taking over in the fourth, Atlanta would have won that. And we know how lethal Brooklyn's look too. It's not like Brooklyn is a scrub team. We expect them to be the best team in the East. And then second game, they blew Brooklyn out. And I'm looking at them, and they're such a deep team. Like they're even right now they're playing without Danilo Gallinari, Onyeka Okongwu, and I think Rondo hasn't played all the games, or Chris Dunn. And all these guys, they're going to be back. And I mean, they're going to have a problem in terms of like how they build their rotation and give each other minutes. But that's a great problem to have. And the way they're playing with just their own team from last year has been night and day. And I think Trae Young is a driving force for that. And we know he's not the best at defense, but I think Atlanta's building a great team around him. And it's going to be kind of like the 2015 Steph kind of season where he's the driving force behind a great team. And Atlanta might win a shit ton of games. And Trae Young might just be your MVP.
That is bold. That is really bold. He didn't even he didn't even get all NBA, and you're putting him as MVP. Oh
Yo,
man.
you never know. Listen, no one saw Steph Curry coming in 2015, and yet he won MVP.
Uh,
No one sees Trae Young coming. I know everyone thinks that Luka is the first in line for MVP, and he is by all accounts a better player than Trae. But I don't know. It's just something about watching Trae. He's as much of a magician as Luka, and I think because of Luka's greatness, people overlook how great Trae himself is because they were traded for each other. But if that hadn't happened, I think we have a bigger conversation about Trae Young being almost as good as Luka.
oh man, I don't know. I don't know. I you didn't even make the playoffs with that core, and you're telling me they're gonna be MVP caliber? No way.
Wait
No.
and watch. Wait and watch. We should put a
Okay.
wager on it. You know how Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp and Undisputed put like what case of Mountain Dew? We should do a case of something, Coke Zero or something.
Coke Zero, that's your favorite drink, isn't it?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
definitely, I'm definitely open to that, and I'm really confident that I can win that one. Because here's the thing, here's the thing. The Hawks are great. Don't get me wrong, and I understand they beat Brooklyn. It's a well-balanced machine that they have there. Multiple ways they can attack you. I get it. Trae Young, Cam Reddish, Capella, Bogdanovich, Rondo. You mentioned Chris Dunn, Kongu Wu, Gallinari. Like the list goes on. They're a good team, but I see them. Their ceiling, I think, is going to be like top five. I think right now they need to build up that experience. It's a bunch of young guys, and honestly, Rondo is the only veteran on there that I see that has significant playoff experience. And I don't see that that team can carry them far into the playoffs. Maybe in the regular season, they can maybe squeeze into the top three, pending they get lucky. And but I don't see that happening personally, just because I still think they're a few years away. Now, that being said, I'm not taking anything away from Trae Young because he's a spectacular player. And I think him and Luca are the future of the league. And I think I agree with what you're saying. I think that Luca did take off last year, and there was a lot of hype around him. But I think Trey's hype was still there. It just wasn't as uh, known because his team was not a playoff team. He was doing well on a really shitty team, whereas Luca did well and helped carry his team into the playoffs. So that's one factor that I think. But I do think skill and talent wise, I think they're really both close to each other. And I definitely agree they can make it all NBA this year for sure. If not first, maybe second team. Uh, but the pieces around Trey Young, I don't think that's enough. You can't like there's no bona fide like number two star to really put them as like a top tier team in the East, in my eyes. And I think Trey, like you mentioned how Steph did it, and no one expected Steph to do it. But Steph also had Clay and he had Draymond, who had stellar years that year, right? And Clay was already considered an all-star caliber player, and Draymond brought himself to that all-star caliber level. So unless
Clay wasn't considered all star at that time. I think
all-star,
Clay
well,
was a
that's why I
great
said
player, but he wasn't an all star player.
all-star caliber, right? He was up there, is what I'm saying. And you can't argue. He was still one of the greatest shooters, right? He was still one of the best shooters in the league at that time. So even though Steph was the best, but Clay was up there. So that's why I'm saying, like, I don't think the Hawks have a bona fide number two star. And until they kind of find that, I think there's a little bit
Have
of
you
identity.
seen John Collins?
I've seen John Collins and he's on my fantasy. I'm quite aware of him, but he's not the set number two guy as of yet. I don't think so, personally. Okay. I think the Hawks are still figuring it out, whether it's Hunter, whether it's Cam Reddish, whether it's Bogdanovich off the bench, whether Gallinari comes in and starts killing it. Who knows? And I think once they figure that out, then they're going to be a very dangerous team. And I
I
think
don't
they
know.
can
Yeah,
be like a really good season team, but I don't think it's enough to carry Trey to an MVP level just yet. In the future,
that
definitely.
okay. The way Trey plays, it almost to me it almost seems like a mix of James Harden and Steph. Like he's I'm telling you, he's gonna be way more special than I think we give him credit for. And I don't know, maybe it's just me because the Warriors suck right now. They're my favorite team, and I'm just looking for my Warriors fix. And Trey Young is like the Atlanta Hawks are the closest I can get to like the 2015 Warriors days. So maybe that's why I see them in such a way. But they're exciting to watch. I love watching them. And Trey Young to me seems like that hybrid between Steph. Like he's not Steph 2.0 as people say he is. His game is a lot like Harden in terms of like drawing fouls and being really crafty. Um, and he also has that Steph range. So he's like a mix
Yep.
between the two.
Yep.
And I know he's a really small guard and he has defensive liabilities, but I don't know this Hawks team. I know they're young, but their team composition truly does remind me of 2015 Golden State. I know they don't play like that. Trey Young is a lot more pick and rolls and not like the motion offense that Golden State ran, but it's effective. It's working so far, and I think Luca and Trey are gonna be a big rivalry for years to come, and I
Oh yeah.
can't wait to see where that goes.
100%.
Speaking about that, I have another bold prediction, and this is actually talk. Speaking of Luca, based on the first few weeks of NBA action, I have two teams from the West that I think might miss the playoffs because of how loaded the West is,
Okay.
and those two are Dallas Mavericks and Denver Nuggets.
Ooh. You think the Nuggets will miss? I don't know. I don't know.
The Nuggets are not looking the best right now, and maybe it's just because it's early season and they're gonna figure it out. But right now, Jamal Murray has been hella inconsistent. They're really missing Jeremy Grant, and I know you know how good Jeremy Grant is. I know you
Oh
took him
yeah.
on your fantasy team, and he gave you a lot of points yesterday.
Oh yeah,
So
he did. He did.
and
But
they don't have Jeremy Grant anymore. Michael
yeah.
Porter, he's also inconsistent. They need him to be a consistent offensive weapon, but he's been inconsistent. And I just think with how loaded the West is, and I'm still holding out hope that Golden State's going to figure it out and move into the playoffs. And if that happens, there are bound to be teams who fall off. And I think Denver is at risk of that. And so is Dallas. Dallas hasn't played well either. Luka's been cold from the field, and he hasn't been hitting much of his shots. And they're gonna miss Kristaps. He's not there. They're missing Seth Curry because they traded Seth away for Josh Richardson. And even though Josh
Yep.
Richardson is like a more of a defensive and more of like he can create his own shots more, they're really missing Seth Curry's shooting. And I think a lot of those factors, when you factor in, either both of them or at least one of them is at risk of missing the playoffs.
So I mean, those are bold predictions, and I could see those becoming are happening in the postseason. But I think that the Dallas Mavericks' success, let's start with them first, is strictly contingent on the health of Kristaps Porzingis. If Dallas does not get Kristaps for majority of the season, it's going to be tough for them to win games. Luca alone, and obviously they got Josh Richardson, great player, great defender, can shoot the three ball, stretch three, great player. I like Tim Hardaway, he's good too, but that front court is lacking. Like you have Dwight Powell, you have Boban, but that's I don't think that's enough to help them. They need someone who can stretch out and shoot the ball like Kristaps, who's athletic as him, which Dwight Powell is. But uh, so I could see that happening depending on how his health is. And then the Nuggets, you know what? When you first brought it up, I was like, there's no way. But when you think about it, it actually could happen because Murray's struggling. Jokic is doing Jokic things, but they're missing Jeremy Grant. And who's going to fill that void? I think that was a huge piece. I think every team needs that shooting guard slash small forward slash power forward slasher who can shoot, play defense, and run around. And I don't see anyone replacing that right now. I think the Nuggets are good with Porter, and they have Bull. That's great, but they're still young guys. They're still figuring it out, and I don't think they're going to figure it out during the season unless uh, Porter explodes this season. Then I don't see the Nuggets making it either. Actually, with teams like the Suns, um, and we talk about the Warriors. I'll bring them up later. Um, I have some bold predictions for you as well.
I know you do.
So, um, yeah, but I could see that totally happening, where the Nuggets and potentially the Mavericks miss the playoffs because you have teams like,
Thank you for agreeing. I didn't think you would, but that's great. It's great that you agree.
yeah,
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 yeah. As I said, those two might miss the playoffs. Actually, I kind of hope they do. It makes room for my Warriors to come through. So those are my bold predictions. How about yours? Let's hear
okay,
yours. You said you wanted to
okay,
mention something about my Warriors. What is this you want to mention?
okay. So my bold prediction is that the Warriors do not figure it out this season and slip into ninth place.
Get out of here. Get the fuck out of this podcast, bro. Like I don't want to talk to you anymore. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm
Look.
done.
Last
I'm done.
night,
I'm quitting. I'm quitting.
did
Deep
you
range.
did
Last
you
podcast right here.
did you see the type of shit they were trying to pull off yesterday? They were trying to put their banners in front of Portland to intimidate them, and then they got blown out. Like, what the hell is that shit, man? I
Hey,
was
okay.
laughing because I was like, "Oh, Lee, you're gonna put it in front of Dave and Melo's eyes to scare them or make them feel bad, and then you got spanked. Like, what? Steph was almost in tears, man. I know he was crying underneath that towel. He's just sitting on the bench,
Listen,
but
he was crying because of how trash his team is, and there's no denying
exactly.
it's a trash team. It's a
And let's be honest, like he has a good team on paper, but Wiseman's too young. Draymond's not the same Draymond. They don't have Clay. Wiggins, what the hell is he doing? And where the hell's Kelly Oubre been? Like none of these guys have showed up. And I don't think Kelly Oubre can help you make it to the West playoffs. If this was the East, I would say a different story. But Kelly Oubre can't help you make it to the West playoffs. When Wiggins is playing this trash, how do you expect him to be the number two guy? And we haven't even seen what Draymond has done yet. Hopefully he comes back 100% healthy. I mean, he lost a lot of weight. I hope that helps. That might not actually play to his advantage. That might actually be worse for him. But Steph's the only guy that can actually do shit on this team. And you can tell with their frustration, maybe it's a point they're just struggling and they need some extra firepower. But like other than Steph and I see Wiseman being promising, I don't see that team doing much. Like who's on their bench? Who's their bench guy? Damian Lee? Damian Lee's not going to carry them anywhere. He's not going to be their sixth man of the year. Nowhere near. He's not going to be the top six man in probably the whole conference, if not the whole league. Who else is there? Ken Bazemore? Kevon
hey,
Looney?
he was dropping buckets yesterday.
Ken Bazemore is a streaky player. He could light it up. And I don't doubt that. But if that's your bench, then say goodbye to your playoff chances. I think they need to make some trades or sign some new players. I think they're lacking quite a bit. And with this current roster, if you were to tell me, do we see them in the postseason? Uh, at the end of 2021? No, I don't think so. I think teams like you have the Phoenix that's playing a little better now with behind Chris Paul, and DeAndre Ayton is getting set up by Chris Paul, which is great. Mikal Bridges, Devin Booker, they're stepping it up. Dallas, Luca will do Luca magic, right? And if Kristaps comes back, it's a difficult team. Utah's always there. Portland's gotten better. In my eyes, I think they got better. I mean, there's quite a few teams to compete with, and you're forgetting the Pelicans too. They could fight for that spot, and I think they've gotten better than last year as well. Same roster too, which is same roster minus Drew Holiday, should I say? But they got Bledsoe and George Hill, which are two smart players. So I don't know. It's I think the
No, I
Warriors.
think George Hill is in OKC. I don't think he's with the Pelicans anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, Bledsoe's still there, right? So Bledsoe, you have Lonzo Ball, who's playing a lot better. He's shooting a lot better. You have Redick, you have Zion, and then you have Ingram, who's going to the superstar level slowly. Not there yet, but I think he's improving year by year. So if you put up the Pelicans against the current Warriors roster, I'm definitely taking the Pelicans. If you put up the Suns with the current Warriors roster, I'm definitely taking the Suns. And if you put up Portland, as you've seen last night against the Warriors, I'm taking the Blazers. So if you can't beat these, I guess, second tier teams, and I say second tier because I put the Lakers and the Clippers on their own tier, top tier, at least for the West. And whoever's third, the third is up for grabs now because Denver, you don't know what's going on. So I think third place is up for grabs. I think teams like, you know what? I'll get to my next prediction with that. But the third place spot is open for anybody in the West. So I think the West, yeah, it's gotten a lot stronger than last year, to be honest.
Okay. Okay. I hear you. They are a trash team. I'm not going to refute that. I've been watching the same games as you are. Watching Kelly Oubre, brick after brick.
Brick.
Just throw one brick after the other. And then Wiggins. One game he's good. The next game he disappears. It's so infuriating to watch. I get it. I understand fully where you're coming from. But you know why I still think the Warriors are going to be in the playoffs ahead of all the other teams you just mentioned? Two reasons. Steph Curry and Draymond Green. And the reason I'm saying that, when Steph Curry and Draymond Green are at full strength, who is the best duo among the team you just mentioned? I would pick Steph and Draymond over who? Zion and Ingram. I would pick Steph and Draymond over Booker and CP3, or Booker and Ayton, or CP3 and Ayton. I would pick
But
Steph and Draymond.
but
Listen, I would
you
pick
got
Steph and Draymond over Lillard and McCollum too. And
no way, no
yes,
way.
yes, I would. I would. No, Steph. Listen, I know Draymond Green didn't look the best yesterday. He just came back from COVID, from a right foot contusion or whatever his problem was, from not playing ball in months. It was his first game. The reason the Warriors are looking as bad as they are, because no doubt other teams are more talented than the Warriors. I'm giving you that. A lot of other teams in the West are way more talented than the Warriors, especially anyone outside of Steph and Draymond. And that's exactly why a team like the Warriors are going to need time to build chemistry to really look like what they can be at their full potential. Other teams, because they're more talented, like for the Nets, for example, they don't need to build that chemistry because they have the talent to just make up for the chemistry in the beginning. But then once you go mid-season and teams have had time to build that chemistry, I have no doubt in my mind with Steph and Draymond running the show, they're gonna be a lethal team with great chemistry. And also, I don't think we've seen the Warriors at the final form. I don't think this is a team that's gonna be there after the trade deadline. They need shooting, and they need it badly. And I know
Mhm.
GM Bob Myers hasn't moved up his sleeve to get shooters in that team. You put two shooters besides Steph and Draymond, and we're back. We're back and talking like it was there was no other issue. And I think they are gonna pull it off. They have trade assets, and they know they want to maximize Steph and Draymond's um, window championship window. And I know Bob Myers is going to pull something off because he's not going to let this go the way it is. And even if it does, they're going to build enough chemistry to get over the hump. And at the end of the day, in any series other than LeBron James, I'm picking Steph Curry to win that. So we'll see
Oh,
where. So
over
that's what I'm saying.
KD.
I mean, they're not in the West. I'm saying in
Oh,
the West
well,
strictly.
over Kawhi.
But
I don't know.
yes, over Kawhi and PG, of course. Bro, do you trust PG in the playoffs or Draymond? I'd much rather take Draymond in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But no, I like that. That you made some solid points there. Um, Definitely. Like, I think it's really contingent on Draymond. Like, we'll have to see what Draymond does and how he plays to really see their success. He needs to
I
be
think they're
playing
still a
like,
great team. Listen, Steph has just been missing a ton of shots himself. I'm not saying everyone's breaking shots to begin with. Steph himself is missing a lot of open shots, and all this comes with rhythm. He's gonna get back into rhythm. Kelly Oubre is not gonna keep bricking shots left, right, center. At one point, he's gonna start making shots, and even if he doesn't, whatever. Steph Curry can pick that up. And I know they're gonna make a lot of lineup changes to switch it up. I just think right now Steph's not in the takeover mode yet. He's trying to get everyone involved. He's trying to build that chemistry. But at one point, Steph's just gonna be like, "Fuck this! I'm taking over." Steve Kerr's gonna be like, "Fuck this! I'm not trying to run that motion offense anymore. I'm just gonna do high pick and rolls with Steph to death." And they're gonna have a very James Harden like offense, and which Steph Curry is more than capable of. And he's gonna just take over to get them to the playoffs. And I think that is gonna happen.
well, again, I do want to see that happen because I love 2016 Steph. Very fun to watch. But you got to remember, Steph is not the same age. He's not the same Steph that he was in 2016. So I would like to see that happen. And definitely, like, the Warriors are a fun team to watch, and I definitely want to see them succeed. But with their current roster, I don't see that happening.
We'll see. We'll revisit with our case of Coke Zero.
Definitely. All right. So moving on. Here's my other bold prediction. Are you ready for this?
I don't know if I am, but we'll hear you out.
All right. James Harden to the Raptors for Pascal Siakam and a first round pick.
Ooh, that's juicy. I don't know if that's bold because it's been reported quite a bit.
But it's
I can definitely
bold.
see that happening.
It's bold. It's bold because you don't know. The Raptors just signed Siakam to a max deal. You think they'd want to give him up? He meshes
I
well with
mean,
he meshes well with the whole team. He hasn't been in Toronto that long at that, superstar level, only 2 years, really, or star level, should I
is
say?
he superstar level though?
Sorry, all-star level. But yeah, but I see this happening. I see this bold statement. I see Raptors acquiring James Harden, and you have
I
Lowry and Harden as the backcourt for the Raptors.
I can totally see it happening if I'm honest with you. I mean, you saw the writing on the wall. They sat Siakam for a game, and I don't know what that says in terms of like the team's chemistry and where they stand with
Yes,
Siakam. Maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it isn't, but it's still not a good sign when you're sitting your best player for a disciplinarian action and for your best player to act like that and just leave the court and not be by his teammates. Like, what kind of example
it's
does that set? And I think, yeah, you're right. He might just be on the trade block soon enough, especially when it's for a player of James Harden's caliber. When you have that level of superstar that you can get under other circumstances, maybe not. Maybe he would not. They would not trade him. But when James Harden's available,
yep,
I can see that happening.
yep. And you know what? It works out well for both teams because when you look at the Rockets' perspective, Siakam would fit right in with Christian Wood, DeMarcus, John Wall, and Eric Gordon. Maybe the Raptors pull Eric Gordon too. That would be great. And obviously the Raptors don't have an identity anymore. I mean, when they switched their jerseys to these disgusting ones, they completely lost their identity. Obviously, they lost Ibaka and Gasol too, so that affected it quite a bit. But when you have the same roster as last year, and minus Gasol and Ibaka, you give me no confidence. You give me no
To,
confidence.
I mean, Ibaka and Gasol, those are huge losses too.
Huge,
They're not just
huge.
anybody.
Exactly, exactly. And they never replaced them, you know? It's like they just took whoever was out there. It's like they basically just took the leftovers from the NBA free agency market. You ever go
You,
to a
you know what?
yeah,
You know what happened. You know what I think happened. I think Giannis purposely fucked over the Raptors because the Raptors were the team to beat Giannis, and if they faced the Raptors again at full strength, they would have beaten Milwaukee because they know how to build a wall for Giannis. So Giannis was like, you know what? I'm gonna hold off on signing my extension for as long as possible. So the Raptors waited on signing anyone because they thought they wanted to preserve cap space. But next thing you know, Giannis is off the table now, and Raptors were left with no one. So
but here's the thing, cap space or not, Gasol and Ibaka weren't that like expensive contracts that you couldn't sign them. I think they had enough because if you look at it, what Ibaka signed for, what is it, 2 years, like uh, what, close to 20 mil, if I'm correct, 18, 19 mil. Anyways, and Gasol, what, for a few million, you could have easily gotten both of them back, right? I think that I do agree with you though. The Raptors definitely waited for Giannis, and they probably would have done something with Lowry's contract, or they probably would have done something with Van Fleet's. And if you notice, like near around the same time, they also signed Anunoby's contract too. So I don't know what they're trying to go, what they're thinking in their head, what Masai's thinking. But you know what? I trust Masai. He's done it once, he can do it again. All of his teams have been very successful, so I never doubt him. But I just question what happened this offseason. Like Aaron Baines, Alex Len, DeAndre Bembry, like these aren't picks, like free agents that you signed that you're excited for. It looks like they were just trying to keep their guys, keep the core, so Toronto could be a more attractive place. But in I guess the result was that it wasn't the case. So that's why I think he needs
yeah,
to make a big move now to get the team's confidence, the team's identity back. And similar to what he did with DeMar, uh, I think he should consider doing it with Siakam. Definitely.
yeah, it would be sad for Toronto, but at the end of the day, that's what you have to do. I think like beginning of last season, I would have been completely against it because of how good Siakam was. But whatever, who knows what happened ever since the bubble? But maybe teams just figured him out or whatever it is. But ever since the bubble started, he hasn't been the same. And
Yep.
I thought this year he'd have more time to come back and get into rhythm and be good, but still not. He still looks like the bubble player, and he just hasn't been that great. Which is why I can totally see this happening. And I mean, the Raptors as a whole have just underperformed rather than maybe Lowry. Like Van Vliet too, he hasn't been
Yep.
that great. He just signed a huge contract with the Raptors, and I think the reason is everyone's just like playing out of their role. They don't know their roles properly. And for a team that has so many returning pieces, I know we lost Ibaka and Gasol, but most of our core is still there. And for the chemistry to not look as great for a team that's built on chemistry, that's concerning. And
Yep.
maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe it is because they lost Ibaka and Gasol, and that's throwing everyone off. But Van Vliet's been playing out of his role. Like he's not a lead guard. Raptors are trying to make him a lead guard as like a eventually a way to phase out Lowry. But he's not a lead
Yep.
guard. He's more of an off-ball player, and he's not
Exactly.
someone who's going to be like Lowry, bring the ball up and create for everyone. More so, he's going to score, and Lowry has to set him up. But they've been trying to make him more of a lead guard, and that's just not working. And they need someone. So Harden in this team would be a great addition. Take Siakam away, it would be sad to see him go. But if Masai can pull this off, we're back into like at least top three in the East if we get Harden.
Yep. Yep. And that's what I hope happens. All right. You want another bold prediction? So I
Go
had
ahead.
two of them. I got one more for you. Okay. Okay. So you mentioned Trey Young for MVP.
Uh huh.
And my MVP pick is actually Dame Dollar Sign Lillard.
Ugh. You're gonna
I
do that to me right after they thrashed Golden State yesterday?
right after they thrashed Golden State. I think the Blazers are a much better team than they were last year. They picked up uh, Derek Jones, they picked up Cantor, they picked up Covington. Even though these aren't really significant pickups, and they also got Rodney Hood back. Okay, I think these small little pickups that they got really complement their roster, and it their depth is much stronger than it was last year. And they also got Melo back, right? I didn't even mention that, but who do you have? CJ? You got Dame. Sorry, and then CJ to back him up. You got Melo who can score the ball. You got Nurkic who can rebound. He's a smart player. You got Covington for defense. That's a strong team, man. And I think the Blazers. I think personally they could take that third place seed like they did a couple years ago with Dame getting MVP.
Yeah, I could see that. Um, they're definitely better for sure, but I don't know if they're good enough still. I think they're just in that mix of like from 2 to 10 in the West. Cuz after the Lakers, everyone's just kind of jumbled up and they're better, but I'm just not as high on Dame as a lot of other people are, including yourself apparently. Um and I think I told you about this a few like last week when we did our podcast is that I find Dame to be a little overrated. And every time in big moments in the playoffs, he hasn't lived up to the Dame Dollar reputation. Sure, he hit that shot against PG a few years back, and that was amazing. It was one of the greatest moments in NBA history. But the same year, he got swept in in the Western Conference Finals by a KD Let's Golden State. And I just think he's still that team at their core is still the same. They added a lot of good wing players, and that's definitely going to help. But I don't know if they're good enough to become a top team in the West. And sure, I mean Dame, he'd be in the MVP conversation. I think if they do well, and that's more so because this year's MVP is just so wide open. Like there's no clear cut MVPs. Giannis
Yep.
is not gonna win it 3 times in a row, but he'll still be in the conversation. Luka hasn't had a great start, and if my prediction is right, and Dallas might miss the playoffs, he's not gonna win MVP. Trey Young could be one. I mean, I am kind of on the early bandwagon. I know no one's actually thought about that yet. Steph, if Golden State again is not a high seed, he's not gonna go anywhere. Kyrie, KD, I don't think either of them are gonna play enough to win MVP. LeBron, AD, same thing, and they're just gonna cancel each other out. So there's no clear cut, I guess, pick for MVP this year. So Dame, maybe he has a chance, but I wouldn't like pencil that in. It's a long shot.
Okay. Okay. I mean, yeah, it's still early, but let's see. Dave's shooting from the logo now, so that's a sight to see. So hopefully he can keep that up. But we never know. MVP's wide open, as you said.
I think it pisses Dame off every time someone says that he copied Steph's game. I think someone yesterday was like, "Oh, you're emulating Steph's game," and Dame was like, "Nah, I do me. I don't copy anyone's game." And I think with every time he got a beat down from Steph, he just hates seeing Steph on the other side. I'd love to see
Well,
how the game tomorrow goes because they have another game coming up, Golden State
yep,
Portland. I want to
kick
see.
off
I
the
want to see how
series.
that goes. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. So it was good. We made some nice bold predictions. So let's move on to Salvi. Do you know what time it is now? We
What
talked
time,
about
bro?
the
What
new
time?
it's New Year, New Me player edition.
Yeah,
Uh
yeah, it's okay.
so for the folks listening in, New Year, New Me. It's basically we moved into the year of 2021. 2020 was a rough year for everyone, but it was especially rough for certain NBA players and or teams
Mhm.
or staff. So we thought the new year, new me would be which players or staff or even team would need to basically recreate their identity for this new year. and come up with some very good New Year's resolutions. So, Salvi, why don't you get started off with this?
All right. My first one. I don't know if this is recreating, but I think James Harden's resolution, and I'm going to talk about James Harden right now, is to get traded to a city with the most strip clubs. And I don't know if Toronto can. I don't know if Toronto can, hold a candle to that. I mean, Toronto has some. I don't know, but maybe not as much as Houston. So I think that would be James Harden's New Year's resolution to get traded to a team or a city with the most strip clubs. Maybe Tampa Bay has a lot of strip clubs. Who knows? Um, but yeah, but in all seriousness, I think James Harden's um, he wants to be in a team that's contending, and he wants to get traded to the Nets. I don't know if that's gonna happen, or it might. I don't know. I personally want to see James in the Raptors. So I guess that's a resolution for both the Raptors and James Harden is to make that trade happen. James Harden, please come to the Raptors. Please make it your New Year's resolution and lift us back to the finals again. I think Harden could do it with the team that we have. So yeah, that's my pick for James Harden's New Year's resolution.
Bearded one getting traded. That's a good resolution. Definitely. Definitely
Yep.
think seems like he's kind of out of Houston. He's done with his Houston. His time there was really well. So let's see what happens. So that's good. That's good. Okay. So we talk about resolutions. I think you know which direction I'm going. He's had a number of nicknames this past 2020. Way off
Uh-huh.
P, playoff P, PG, like
Pandemic P,
disappearance,
mild P.
pandemic P, mild P. He made his segment on Shackton. So we're definitely talking about Paul George here. Definitely talking about Paul George. I mean, yeah, the what happened in that Denver series, and again, I understand. Like you go through a lot of, uh, it's a challenge. You're being locked in. You're in a bubble away from your family, your close ones, so you're not traveling. So it's a lot more difficult. But at the end of the day, everyone else did it, and you're getting paid millions of dollars to play basketball. So you should show up, okay? And if you're the bona fide number two after Kawhi, you should show up. And I think that carried over into this season. He started playing better, for sure. Statistically, he's not that bad, but he also got
Until he
spanked
got
by
thrashed for by 50 points and a half.
by 50 points. I looked at that score and I was like, what the hell is going on right now? Like, you
Bro,
can't
take
be
this in.
real.
Not 50 points in a game. Not a game. Not a game. We're talking about in a half.
In a half. In a half. He he let his team. The funny thing is, this guy decided to take it upon himself. He's like, yeah, it's my fault. Dude, you're not the leader of the team. It's Kawhi. So I don't know who you're trying to impress. It's not
Well,
Kawhi didn't
for once
play.
he did. For
Yeah,
once he took the blame because usually he's just like throwing blame around at everyone else. It's either Doc Rivers' fault for blowing a 3-1 lead. I mean, Doc Rivers wasn't the one who had a shot go off the backboard, outside of the backboard. Or it's Dame Lillard's fault for taking a bad shot in his face. So he's never taken ownership for his own shortcomings, and I think it's about time he starts taking some.
no, for sure. But like when I say he doesn't need to take the blame for anything. He should know his role. He joined the Clippers team with an elite star in Kawhi. Kawhi has way more accolades than he does. You should really be honest and be like, and it's not like Kawhi's aging. Like he needs to take a step back and give it to Paul George. No, Paul George is the number two on that team. That's clear cut. But like, you don't need to be acting like the number one. Don't need to be acting like everything's in your shoulders. Follow the leader, know your role, play your game. And I think Paul George's resolution is that really play your game. Be the number two. Don't try to act like a number 1A or 1B, whatever it is. Kawhi, be the leader of the team. Paul George, be the vocal leader of the team. Don't take ownership for every loss that happens. And score more than 20, 21 points a game. This guy is capable of averaging like 25 plus. Capable. Hasn't met that. And I think, when he was at Indiana, it was clear cut. He was number one. He was doing a good job with Indiana. They built the roster around him. In this scenario, not the same case. But he's also playing at home. His dream, he claims. Well, play like it's your dream, man. So
Yeah.
that's I think that's the resolution for Paul George.
Okay, that's a good one. I'll give you another one. This is for the Lakers and LeBron James to make the Lakers interesting again. And you know why I say that? Because we've gone through what, like almost 40, 50 minutes of this podcast, and we have not mentioned the Lakers once. You know why? Because everyone knows they're good. I mean, everyone knows they're great. Everyone knows they're the best team in the NBA right now, and
Mm-hmm.
they have no drama going on for the first time ever in a LeBron team. So no one's talking about the Lakers. It's as if they don't exist, even though they're the best team in all of the NBA. So LeBron, I mean, obviously, the Lakers are always going to be in the news cycle because they have LeBron. So LeBron's resolution is to do some shit or trade someone or post something cryptic to make the Lakers interesting again.
So you don't think he traded enough, signed enough players?
I don't know, man. I think Kuzma's trade value is going up. I think LeBron's been tweeting a lot to hype up Kuzma. I think a Kuzma trade might be on the horizon.
Hopefully, or yeah, they need some sort of excitement for sure. I think they're too stacked to the point where LeBron doesn't need to play, and you already expect them to win. It's like kind of how I felt watching the Warriors play with KD and Seth. The
Yeah,
whole season, you expected they were gonna win, so there's no point in watching. You only watch
yeah,
when you know it's a close game. And
but I mean, with Draymond and KD on the team, you always had some drama going on.
exactly,
With
but
KD's burner accounts, Draymond yelling at KD saying something stupid. There was always something going on.
LeBron's not at that stage where he's gonna get drama, but definitely he needs a guy like Caruso to step it up. Or you know what? Sign JR Smith. Sign JR Smith.
Bring the champion squad back.
Bring
Sign
the
J.R.
champion squad
Smith,
back.
Dion Waiters. Sign Delonte West. Why not?
Sign on to it. Shave Anthony Davis's unibrow. Do something.
Ooh, that's a good resolution. Shave
And then
Anthony Davis's unibrow. He's gonna go from the brow to no brow.
yeah, brow to no brow. And you know what? They brought Mark Gasol. He's a good player. It's not the most entertaining to watch either. He's just a
No, no,
good
no.
player.
You know what you got to do? You got to get Mark Gasol drunk as fuck, and then you'll see. We'll have parade Gasol back.
He'll do his signature walk, the Conor McGregor type walk.
No.
And yeah, no, I see that. They're not as entertaining. You think like with Montrez, they would be pretty good too, but no. Like, only thing
Yeah,
I see in the media is fuzzy shoes. That's it.
they're just too good. They'll be back in the news cycle, I'm pretty sure, soon enough. But speaking about Lakers and LeBron, It was LeBron's birthday a few days back. This man
Yep.
just turned 36. Take that in. This
Holy.
man is, I don't know what to call him, Iron Man, Man of Steel, Superman. He is 36, still the best player in the world. Anytime someone has challenged him for the throne, he's squashed it handily. It was Kawhi, whether it's Kawhi or Giannis or Steph in 2016. He's always made it a point to be like, nah, this is my league, and I'm always the face of the league, and y'all run through me, and
Yep.
y'all can get nothing unless, I guess, the second and third best players in the world team up. But yeah, it's crazy, man. He's crazy, and the more time that passes, the more I used to be a LeBron hater. There's no denying that. But the more time that passes, the more I respect him, and the more I get closer and closer to, is he the GOAT? Is
Yep.
he actually the greatest of all time?
Yep.
Because Michael Jordan didn't do this for as long as LeBron has. And I think that's the
Exactly.
biggest argument going for LeBron.
Exactly. At this high level, he never played this long. And I totally agree. And let's talk about how LeBron never took any seasons off. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about his durability on top of that. Like compared to Michael taking a few years off, I understand for personal reasons, but he still took the 2 years off, right?
Yeah.
So it does put him in the discussion for sure. And I think I agree with you. I definitely like, I'll be honest, I was a huge fan of LeBron when he was on the Heat. As soon as he left, some of the feels kick in, and you're like, okay, I hope this guy doesn't win. But as he gets older, it's like you have to respect him more and more as he gets another accolade, as he continues to grow, adds to his resume. You're like, damn, this guy
Mhm.
might be the GOAT.
And he has no signs of stopping still. He has no signs of slowing down. At this age, like look at his peers. Carmelo Anthony coming off the bench is not even half the player that he was. D Wade is already gone. Chris Bosh is gone. There's no one from his class who's as good as he is. Like you look at players like Chris Paul and stuff, they're a little younger than LeBron, but even them, you can tell they declined like so much. But LeBron's at the peak of his game. Like I was just looking at it the other day. This man, who was not known for his shooting, now shoots
Yep,
comfortably from three. He's
yep,
evolved his game and added new things to his game every year
exactly,
to stay at that
exactly.
top spot, all the while being so durable. I mean, yeah, he missed that one season, his first season with the Lakers, but other than that, he's been Iron Man. Nothing has stopped him. He tweaks an ankle. He tweaked an ankle. I think I forgot which game it was in last week,
Yep,
and he was fine.
he was fine.
He came back and he's still playing like it's nothing.
Exactly. And you know what? In the game yesterday for San Antonio, triple double.
I know. I have him on my fantasy team.
Yeah, 35 minutes of play. It's insane. His field goal wasn't the greatest, but still, triple double. That
Yeah.
is greatness. And you know what? Like a lot of people do say that the championship was easy, whatever, for the Lakers, but I disagree. I actually think it was one of the hardest. And
It
he
was.
came out successful. If it was easy, then you would have all of these teams that no one would expect making it to the finals, or it would have been a neck and neck playoff series. Like that wasn't the case. You had the teams like the number one team, the Bucks, almost got swept in the second round. And they lost in the second round,
Yep.
but they almost got swept. So when you put it that way, it's like no, the bubble did. It's not like it's much easier because you don't have to travel and stuff. It's much harder because you're not around anyone but your team.
Yep.
So
I mean, everyone had the same conditions the Lakers did. It's not like the Lakers got
exactly,
preferential treatment.
exactly. Everyone had the same treatment. So there you go. So
And
definitely, like
yeah, you know what I think? I think if LeBron manages to get two more titles,
yeah,
he is firmly in the GOAT conversation. Like there's no denying that anymore.
there's no denying that. I think there's no denying it now. To be honest, I don't think. I think right
I mean,
now
right now
behind.
people would still say that like LeBron's 3 and or like 4 and 8 or 4 and 9 or whatever. Um, I think people will still hold that against him, rightfully so. For someone like Michael, for Michael Jordan to go 6-0, that's an incredible achievement. There's no denying that. And for people to say LeBron's gone up against super teams by himself, that's also not true. He had Kyrie and Kevin Love. He wasn't completely by himself, at least that first time. And the second time he got swept, but he still had Kevin Love. And I mean, I see the argument people have that if you are the GOAT, you can take at least one game from a team and not get swept. I see all that. So I think in order to get over that reputation and kind of clean that of everything that has tarnished your reputation, including Dallas in 2011 when he completely underperformed with a super team playing against a regular team and Dirk Nowitzki.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to get over all that, he needs at least 6 titles to be like, hey, look, I had the same amount of titles as Michael, but I've been to way more finals than Michael. I've been doing this for much longer than Michael, and by then he'll probably all his counting stats are all going to be, if they're not already over Michael's. Like he might also have like the highest number of points by anyone ever. He might go get over. He might eclipse Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. When you have that many things going for you, and the only thing you have against you is that you have a finals record that's not as great as Michael's. I think then you start to weigh that, but he has all these other accomplishments and he has the same amount of titles, even though he's not a perfect 106 for six. He has the
Yep.
same amount of titles. And
Yep.
then it's really hard to deny whether LeBron James does belong in that conversation.
Well, I'd put him in the conversation, right? It's not that I think he's in the conversation. He's done enough to put himself in that conversation. But I don't think he's there yet. And I agree with you. I think he's missing 1 or 2 titles. I don't even say two. I think one could put a bit back in the put him at the conversation neck and neck. There are finals like he went up against KD and Steph 2 finals in a row. It's impossible to beat them two with the team that he had for both. And I also believe that the 2007 one, like he there was no chance he was going to beat Tim Duncan with that roster either. But the fact that he got there, the fact that he carried both of the teams there into the finals, or all 3 of those teams, that's huge. And it's just not an ordinary talent. And things like I asked myself, if you swapped out and put Michael into those teams instead of LeBron, would they have won a game? Would he beat, these teams? There's a lot of questions to ask in the finals. So I know the finals record definitely hurts his legacy, but at the same time, I think it should not be the number one determining factor of whether he's in the GOAT conversation. I think it goes holistically, his accolades, right? Championships, finals MVPs, uh, closest scoring titles, assists, uh, all of these factors come into play.
Yep. And by the end of his career, he's going to be in the top 5, I think, for scoring, assists, rebounds. Who knows? Even 3-point made, I think, because I mean, in the finals and playoffs already, his 3-point made is like up there because of the
Yep,
sheer number of games that he's played.
yep,
It's crazy to think
exactly.
of because he's never been thought of as a scorer
Nope,
or a shooter,
nope.
but he's there.
He's there. He's there. All right. So one last thing before we kind of wrap this episode up. Favorite LeBron moment?
Hmm. You go first.
My favorite LeBron moment would have to be, I think it's hands down. I know I'm a Heat fan and I love it. He won 2 titles for the Heat and he dominated. Uh, but you know what? Like, actually, no, I was gonna say the Cavs, the block with Iguodala, but I think my actual favorite was uh probably his alley oop. There's an alley oop that he had with D Wade, and it was versus Portland. And this was, I think, when the Heat were, I forgot the exact season, but this is when the Heat were just established their big three, or it was like their second year. And I remember there was a fast break, Wade threw it up, and LeBron caught it with one hand, but it looked like he was flying.
Yep. The iconic alley oop.
The iconic alley oop. And I think like that is hands down one of my favorite LeBron moments. It's not a game winner, it's not anything like that, but I think that moment.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's definitely one of the most recognized ones and one of the most, I guess, photographed and made into posters.
Yep.
And I mean, your favorite player is D Wade, so I can totally see why you picked that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. My favorite one actually, I'm really glad you didn't take that one because, okay, obviously it's not my favorite, but it's definitely the most impactful because it was also the most
Yeah.
heartbreaking moment of my life. The block on Iguodala. I mean, that was at my peak LeBron hater period, and also that was like peak Steph Curry. I really wanted to see him win. And even though he was injured for those finals, people don't seem to hold that against LeBron. Um, but yeah, that moment, man, I still remember. It was me and a friend of mine. We were at a bar watching the game. It was a finals game, and it almost seemed like, and this was in Toronto, but it almost seemed like everyone, or at least 90% of the bar, was rooting for the Cavs for whatever reason. I thought they would all root for the Warriors because the Cavs just beat the Raptors, but I guess it's an East versus West thing, or I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of LeBron fans. But yeah, it was like I was like one of the only few Warriors fans in that over there, and I just remember like it was so tense, so tight, and they've been at this like stuck in the same score for it felt like a fucking 100 years, and all of a sudden you see Iguodala going up for a layup that would finally put the Warriors ahead,
Yep.
and it's like out of nowhere, and because I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, we got this. Iguodala's gonna jam it in, and Warriors are gonna be up, and the Warriors are gonna win the championship. But then out of nowhere, it's like blocked by James
Oh
out of
yeah.
nowhere,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm just like the whole like place where I was, everyone just went off. Everyone was in
Silence.
awe. I wasn't silent. I was just like, because I was talking trash to all the Cavs fans the entire game.
Yep. Yep.
All of a sudden they're just staring at me and just like celebrating, and I have nothing to say. I'm just speechless. So that was one, definitely not one of my favorite moments, but I would say definitely the most impactful LeBron moment for me.
Oh yeah.
And one of the times that I realized how amazing this guy is. And it's like he's gonna pull it off. You can never count him out, and he's gonna make it happen. Again, Steph was injured, so or else they get beaten five. And Draymond was suspended, so I do think they get beaten five. And LeBron's finals record would have been worse than it was, but it happened. You
It
can't
happened.
go into ifs and buts or what ifs.
Exactly.
It happened, and he made the play that mattered the most, and that play mattered just as much as Kyrie's shot. Even though a lot of people put Kyrie's shot ahead of that, because if LeBron doesn't block that shot, Golden State goes up 2, and there's a much more pressure on Kyrie to make a shot to put them back than when it's tied. So that for me is LeBron's most impactful moment.
That's amazing. Yeah, I remember I think I was out and I was streaming it from my phone, and then I was walking in downtown Toronto, and then all of a sudden I freeze. Everyone I was with, they thought something was wrong with me. And I was like, no, I just seen the one of the greatest plays ever. And it was that game alone, that game seven was one of the best NBA games in the history of the NBA, hands down. And I think that block and definitely like solidified it hands down and kind of put him in the king status. Again,
Yep, broke a lot of people's heart.
oh yeah, definitely, definitely. That's awesome. That's awesome. I like that moment. I think that's a lot of people can say that's a very favorite LeBron moment for them. And I was going there too, but I gotta give it to my Heat LeBron. I think he's the GOAT, the Miami Heat LeBron James. So that's just a personal opinion.
Yeah.
We can discuss that another time.
I think our friends, a lot of, because we know our friend who used to be a host on this podcast is a huge LeBron fan, so he'll be really glad to hear this episode.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. For all the LeBron sexuals there.
I mean, we low key became LeBron sexuals this episode too. So,
Oh man. All right. So I think it's good for today. So thank you for everyone for tuning in to another episode of the Deep Range Podcast, episode 2. Uh, you will find this podcast on Spotify again, and you can
or
definitely reach
Apple Podcasts,
or Apple
or
Podcasts,
Google Podcasts, or
Google
Stitcher,
Podcasts,
and a few other platforms.
a few other platforms. There you go. I didn't even know about Google Podcasts or Stitcher till now, but there you go. That's awesome. So definitely tune in. We try to get an episode in every week on the latest ball topics and fitness related topics. So with that being said, we're gonna let everyone else enjoy their rest of their holiday break before everyone starts up work and everything again, school and work. So any last words before we sign off, Salvi?
Why'd you have to remind me, bro? We got work coming up. But yeah, no, same thing. Hope everyone has a blessed 2021. I know we just had a rough 2020 and a lot of things that we never expected happened. A lot of people's lives were, put into disarray, and it affected a lot of people in a lot of unexpected ways. So hopefully 2021's much better, and hopefully everyone has a blessed 2021, um, and achieves everything they set out to achieve in 2020, even if they weren't able to. So
Awesome.
that's it.
Awesome.
Happy New Year, everyone. Deep range out.
Happy New Year. Deep range out. Until next time.